Okay, well, I know I said that later I was going to share with everyone my plan for this vineyard. I know I can walk out there and look around and visualize it, but sometimes I have a hard time conveying that to people, getting them to see the vision. So I put this together hoping it would kind of help out. I did have a friend come by and check it out the other weekend, and the response was that it was way bigger than he had expected. So anyway, here we go. I apologize for this image here. It comes from Google Maps. It's a satellite image of the property. It's about 190 feet by 190 feet. Again, it's been dormant for the 17 years that I've been here. There was a 33 tree orchard, fruit tree orchard here that most of the trees are dead or dying and are diseased and drought stricken. A lot of borers. So we're going to take those out. But and there's also an old garden area right here. This is, for the most part, mostly cleared. I've still got to take those trees out, and that garden will come out later. One of the interesting things in the research for this, in the farming community, agriculture, there's this term called growing degree days. Basically, it's a heat index for a location to know what kind of heat and length of season you have, a combination of that. What can you grow? What can you actually ripen and get through its life cycle so that you actually have a crop? Well, within the grape growing world, there's a list of grapes and the growing degree days necessary to get those to ripeness. And for this area, Grantsville, we have on average 3,100 growing degree days, and that's from April 30th to October 12th, which is generally that's our 90% assurity dates for last frost, first frost. We can have frost after or before those dates, but 90% of the time those dates are good. So that's what we went off of. Anyway, the 3,100 growing degree days basically gives me access to 85%, 90% of the grapes that are grown. With the one word of warning here, winter.
But winter is coming. We know what's coming with it.
Winter is the thing that we have to concern ourselves with. Okay, this is the way the rows are going to look when we put them in. As you can see, there's 32 rows. There's 8 feet between them, 6 feet between the vines inside those rows. And then we have the trellises that will need to be built. We'll have 8-foot-high end posts, wooden posts that are set 2 feet in the ground. And this little image here to the left kind of shows you a new grafted, rooted grapevine. That's what they'll look like when we first plant them. And then you can see at 18 inches off the ground, we have an irrigation wire that will have the irrigation drip system on it. Then we have a fruiting wire at 36 inches. And then we have 3 sets of catch wires that are each 10 to 12 inches above that. And those catch wires are the wires that the vines will, as they grow, we'll be pushing them up between those wires. And the little tendrils on the vines will reach out and wrap themselves around those wires and hold them in place. It's pretty cool. They're a cool little thing that grapevines have that helps them climb walls and fences and whatnot, but they're a pain in the butt, I can tell you, in the fall when you're trying to prune and take off the old growth, because they are tough, even as small as they are. Now let's see, the irrigation plan for this. I have existing irrigation up here. That's my valve, and this blue line is my source line, and then these red boxes each are valves servicing the 8 zones that I have. Each of the zones is 4 rows of grapes, and each row has 44 emitters in the drip line, each of those being 1 gallon per hour. So it adds up pretty quick. That means I've got 44 gallons per hour for each of these rows, and if this valve is servicing these 4, you're looking at 176 gallons per hour. So you have to make sure the size of your pipe and everything works out so that you have enough pressure and enough water flow so that all the drippers are dripping at the same rate. I will say I'm still looking into these factors here to make sure I've got the right sizes and that I don't have to change it any further, but that is the plan at this point. Vines need 6 to 15 gallons per week of water, depending on the maturity of the vine. If it's a young one, you need to water it a little more often, maybe not as much, but more directly until it gets established. And when they're fully mature and 4 years down the road, they're going to need more, like 15 gallons a week. And of course, part of this is dependent on weather conditions, whether it's been really dry or you've had some rain. You can always adjust for that. Now, servicing and having access to all this is just a bare field right now. But I've left these brown areas here are for me to have access with lawnmowers, four-wheelers, little trailer, so that we can prune, remove the prunings, service the vines during the year, spray, harvest the grapes. And some of these actions are critical timing, and it would be really sad if you get a week of rain and it's so muddy that you can't even access the grapes. That would be a bad deal. So one of the things that's on my mind is, how am I going to put down some kind of ground cover? I'm not so worried this year, but I need to get something on the ground and started to establish some kind of low-growing ground cover, like a buffalo grass, prairie grass, field grass. Some people even use native weeds. I would rather not irrigate this whole property. I just want to have something that's drought-tolerant, heat-tolerant, that will semi-establish itself to hold the ground together, and something that I could actually walk on even if it was wet. So this is still in the works, still thinking this out. We'll come up with a solution. I'm a big dreamer. I like to dream big, I to a fault. So anyway, you might wonder, well, how are you going to process all these? What are you going to do with the grapes? Where are you going to make the wine and store it after you've made it? I propose this Chateau de Pardieu building. Kind of my ode to our name, but this is 2,450 square feet. This is the dream now, the dream. Ideally, it would have a basement, like a cellar for barreling and storage, for the fermentation process and the bottling, just a general area for processing the grapes. And then, on the main level, maybe spaces for tasting, games, hosting parties, whatever. Just kind of a hangout place. But anyway, that's the dream.
You got a dream, you got to protect it. You want something, go get it. Period.
The reality is, I might need my lottery ticket to hit for this to happen. My belief is, dream big and drive towards whatever that vision is. And along the way, if you have to make adjustments, and as hard as it might be, adjust to a more realistic end game, you go ahead and do that. I always shoot for the stars to begin with, and then we'll see where it comes down. That would be the ideal. So anyway, the next thing I wanted to talk about or share with everybody is the grape varieties we picked, and we'll do that on the next video. And I'll get to explain this Excel spreadsheet I put together here that you're looking at, and what each of these rows grape varieties are going to be. We'll talk to you later. See ya.